Hi everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I am Karen.
And I'm Matt. Today we're talking about part 2 of Baguettes, the iconic French bread.
That's right. I really like French bread.
So do I. And you know what? In France, it's actually very cheap to buy a baguette.
Really?
Yes.
So cheaper than Taiwan, would you say?
Yeah, I think it is. Probably cheaper than in Taiwan.
Wow.
So when I was in France, the first time I ever went to France, I was backpacking.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to spend very much money. And when you're in Paris, there's so many fancy, nice restaurants, but I really couldn't afford to eat at any of them.
Because usually they're so fancy and very pricey too.
Yeah. So me and my friend would just go to a bakery and buy a baguette, and then go to a deli or a supermarket and buy some nice French cheese and maybe some meat, and just have that as our lunch or even our dinner.
Really? But I'm pretty sure that it tasted really good too.
It's also really delicious because the baguettes in France are always very fresh when you get them from the bakery. So they're nice and soft, crispy on the outside, and then the
Soft on the inside.
Yeah. But the cheese in France is a great compliment to put on the baguette.
Definitely, and I know that there are many different ways where people enjoy this French bread. For example, people also dip it in, like maybe you have soup. You can also eat it with your soup, or you can dip in like olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And then there's so many different, like making it into a French toast. Or, have you ever tried the Vietnamese sandwich?
Ooh, I like
Is it
those.
banh mi, is it called?
Banh mi, yeah.
Banh mi, that's right. So basically it's like a sandwich, but with like pickled like vegetable and some meat inside, but with special seasoning, right? But on the outside, we use French bread. So it's really delicious.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite uses of French bread.
So many different ways of enjoying this bread. Well, let's learn more about baguettes.
Baguettes grew in popularity in France throughout the 19th century. Early baguettes were much larger than those of today. Measuring around 2 meters long, these baguettes were carried by delivery women who piled them like firewood on their backs. When served, these huge baguettes were commonly laid along the dinner table as they were too long to fit the table's width.
Welcome back. We're talking about part 2 of Baguettes, the iconic French bread.
That's right. We know that it's very delicious, right? And then you can eat it in so many different ways. And it's very popular worldwide and not just in France. But we are going to learn more about baguettes. Baguettes grew in popularity in France throughout the 19th century. When you say something that grows in popularity, that means it becomes more popular, right?
More and more.
Okay, so early baguettes were much larger than those of today. Really?
I didn't know
Okay,
that.
because I thought, that we said the standard size was 65 centimeters long. And I thought that 65 centimeters long was already quite long.
That's already a long piece of bread.
Yes.
Most sandwiches are not that long. So.
So a long time ago, it was actually much larger than that size.
Measuring around 2 meters long, these baguettes were carried by delivery women who piled them like firewood on their backs.
Wait a second, let's go back over there. You said that 2 meters long?
I can't even stretch that far.
Wait
2
a
meters
second.
long.
2 meters is like 200 centimeters, right?
Taller than me.
They used to make them that long,
Yeah.
and then these baguettes were carried by delivery women, and not men, but delivery women, and who piled them like firewood on their backs. That is just quite incredible. I've never seen anything like a piece of bread that long.
Yeah, well, that was, 2 meters is huge, and we know that because they said measuring 2 meters long, and that brings us to a vocabulary word, which is to measure, a verb. To measure means to determine the size or amount of something, usually by using a tool like a ruler or a measuring cup, so something that can tell you how much or how big something is. Our example sentence says, the river measures about 6 meters across.
Okay, and we also have this vocabulary word here, to pile. To pile, and that is a verb. To pile, basically just to place something on top of each other into a pile. So you stack them on top of each other. So, for example, Jeff piled the books high on his desk. So maybe he didn't want to clean up. He was busy, he had to go somewhere. So he just put the books on top of each other. So it was like Taipei 101. Okay, well, let's continue.
When served, these huge baguettes were commonly laid along the dinner table, as they were too long to fit the table's width.
That's right, because 2 meters, right?
Right, nobody has a table that's 2 meters wide. That would be too far to talk to the people on the other side of the table.
Exactly, and width is the how far something is from one side to the other side. We're talking about how wide something is, right? But how long something is, we usually use the word the length of something, right?
Right, so maybe if you have a 2-meter table, you can place it along the length of the table because it's too wide for the table's width.
That's right. Have you seen anything that long?
You know what? In Canada, we used to have these things called party subs. So a
Party subs.
sub meaning a submarine sandwich, which is a long sandwich. And we had party subs where you could order, you could order as long as you wanted for the party. And we would order it in feet. So you would order like a 6-foot party sub. So I have actually been to a friend's birthday party when I was young where they ordered one of these party subs.
Oh, really? So it was like actually very, very long, right? Wow.
It was very exciting because I remember growing up, we would always see the commercials for these party subs on TV. And then so to actually see one, I was like, wow, I've never seen a sandwich that long before.
I have never seen like anything like that in person. I would love to. But do we have something like that in Taiwan?
Party sub? I'm not sure actually. I think maybe you could make one yourself. You can go buy a bunch of sub sandwiches and then just cut the ends off so that it looks like one big long sandwich.
And then you connect them together, right? All right. That's really, really fun. Okay, how about let's take a short break and we'll be back to learn more.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Kenny。我们在前一天的课文提到，长棍面包的标准长度是65公分左右，但以前并不是这样哦。早期的长棍面包比今天的要大得多了。这些长棍面包大约有2公尺长，由送面包的妇女背着。那他们把这些面包像木材一样堆在背上，这样背着。那上桌的时候呢，这些巨大的长棍面包通常会摆放在餐桌旁边，因为它们太长了，不适合这个餐桌的宽度。听到这边 ，Karen 老师用到 incredible 来描述，那我们听一下 incredible 可以描述是惊人的、难以置信的，或是非常棒的。好，那么课文单字 measure 在这边当动词，它表示距离或者是长度等为什么什么什么的意思，它也有衡量、测量的意思。那么 pile 它当动词表示堆放、堆叠，也可以当名词来指一叠、一堆。Karen 老师用到 stack 这个字 ，S-T-A-C-K， 它也可以当动词来表达堆放，把什么叠成堆，也可以当名词来表达一叠一堆。好，那这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来学这个重点是 when 加 V-I-N-G 或是 PP 的用法。连接词 when 它表示在什么什么的时候，那是引导时间副词子句。它的子句的主词跟主要子句的主词相同的话呢，我们就可以把副词子句的主词省略，然后把动词改分词。这个动词原本如果是主动的话，就是改现在分词 V-I-N-G； 被动的话，就是只要保留过去分词 PP。好，那我们用句型来看会更容易理解。原本的句型可以是主词加动词 when， 主词加动词。那你看到前后子句主词一样，你就可以把 when 后面那个主词省略掉，然后把动词这个改成 V-I-N-G 或 PP， 所以就变成主词加动词 when V-I-N-G 或 PP。我们来看2个例句。Jake often tosses and turns when sleeping. Jake 睡觉的时候常常会翻来覆去。句子里面这个 when sleeping 就是由 when he sleeps 简化而来。Ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand when threatened. 当鸵鸟受到威胁时，并不会把头埋在沙子里。好，那句子里面的 when threatened 就是由 when they are threatened 简化而来的。简化课文中。
While the bread dates back to the 1800s, the term baguette wasn't regularly used until the 1920s when a new law prevented bakers from working before 4 a.m. Following the law's introduction, bakers started making bread with a long, thin shape so that it would bake faster and be ready in time for breakfast. Baguette began to be used to refer to this fast-baking bread. Baguette eating comes with its own set of customs. For example, it's considered unlucky to place a baguette upside down on a table, and baguettes are usually broken apart by hand during meals, not sliced with a knife. However you enjoy them, just remember that you're not just eating bread, you're eating a symbol of France.
Welcome back. So we're continuing to learn about baguettes, and we just learned that early baguettes were huge before, and they were up to 2 meters long.
That's right.
So they were so long that you couldn't put them across the width of your table. You had to lay them along the length of the table.
Exactly. That's very, very interesting, by the way. Okay, well, let's continue on with our article today. While the bread dates back to the 1800s, the term baguette wasn't regularly used until the 1920s, when a new law prevented bakers from working before 4 a.m. Okay, so we know that, it wasn't really, it was started around 1800s, but the word baguette wasn't actually regularly used until the 1920s, but then there was like a new law that they stopped bakers, right?
Yeah, so they said it wasn't regularly used. So it wasn't regular means it wasn't often. In this case, it wasn't commonly used. So when they say it wasn't regularly used, it means maybe some people were using that word, but most people were not.
That's right. Not all the time, right?
Yeah. So our example sentence says, George goes out to the movies regularly. So in this case, that means George often goes to the movies, maybe once a week. It could even mean once every 2 weeks, maybe at a regular interval, maybe once in a while.
That's right. And we also have this vocabulary word here, to prevent, and that is a verb. Basically, to prevent, it just means that to stop something from happening. So for example, practicing proper safety habits can prevent workers from being hurt. We can actually stop them from getting hurt, right? But why do they want to introduce this law to prevent workers, start working before 4 a.m.?
I don't know, actually. I think, I would be happy if there was a law that prevented me from working too early.
Maybe they didn't want the workers to be too tired?
Maybe.
Okay.
Following the law's introduction, bakers started making bread with a long, thin shape so that it would bake faster and be ready in time for breakfast. Baguette began to be used to refer to this fast-baking bread.
Okay. So we know like that the shape really matters too. So if it's like long and thin, and it's gonna bake faster than if it's like a really, really big circular shape. Maybe on the outside it'll be cooked, but then on the inside it'll be really, really hard to bake or cook, right?
Yeah, and they mentioned that it needs to be ready in time for breakfast. So I think in France, a common breakfast food is actually a baguette with some cheese or some meat as a side.
You're right. Okay. Okay, so you said that, refer to this fast baking bread. So we all know that, it's actually quite fast, right? Okay. Baguette eating comes with its own set of customs. For example, it's considered unlucky to place a baguette upside down on a table. I didn't know that. That is so interesting.
I'd only heard with a horseshoe. You can't place a horseshoe upside down.
Why is that?
Well, a horseshoe is supposed to be lucky.
Yes.
But only when it's up so that it's like a U. But you put it upside down, they say that the luck falls out.
Oh, okay. So I wonder if baguette is the same way.
Maybe.
Okay, so if you can't place it upside down, guys. So don't ever do that. And baguettes are usually broken apart by hand during meals, not sliced with a knife. But I have seen them sliced before. So I guess it's, some traditions that people have, but not everyone follows.
Yeah, I think there are some preparations where you would need to slice the baguette. For example, where you're putting something on top of the baguette to serve to people. But I think they mean when it's just like at the center of your table for a group of people, you should just tear off a piece and not slice it with a knife. So slice is another vocabulary word, and it's a verb, meaning to cut something into thin pieces. So usually you need to do that using a knife or something very sharp. So our example sentence says, Ken sliced the tomato while waiting for the water to boil.
So he's cutting the tomatoes in thin slices.
Thin slices, right.
Okay, I see. However you enjoy them, just remember that you're not just eating bread, you're eating a symbol of France. And that is true. A symbol basically just means that something that you see that represents something. So if you see a baguette, of course, the first thing that you think of is France, right? So if you see beef noodle, then you will probably think of
Yeah,
Taiwan.
I'll think of Taiwan. I think that sounds like if you're eating a symbol of France, our French people can be angry, like, hey, you're eating our symbol.
No, just something that makes you think of France. Or how about in Canada? What would be like a symbol? Maple syrup?
Maple syrup is one that everyone mentions.
Exactly. Okay, but we do have a what do you think question. So after learning so much about this interesting French bread called baguette, what is your favorite type of bread and why?
Okay, my favorite type of bread is sourdough bread.
Really? And why is that?
I like sourdough bread because just it tastes great when it's fresh. So when you get a fresh loaf of sourdough bread, it's usually a big round loaf. And you cut a slice off and you can make sandwiches with it, or you can even just dip it into some sort of oil or vinegar or sauce, and it's delicious.
Really?
Fresh.
Well, my favorite type of bread is croissant.
Ooh,
It's
good
also
choice.
from France, right? And I really love it because I love the buttery taste, and then on the outside, it's also quite crispy, right? And inside's nice and soft, and it's just so delicious. Okay, well, we learned so much about bread, and I'm getting really, really hungry, and it's time to get something to eat.
Okay, well,
And we'll see you guys next time.
see you next time.
尽管长棍面包可以追溯到19世纪，但是 baguette 这个词直到1920年代才被经常使用。那当时呢，有一条新法是禁止面包师傅在凌晨4点之前工作。这个新法推行后呢，面包师傅就开始制作一种细长的面包，这样才能烤得比较快嘛，来得及准备好当早餐。于是呢 ，baguette 就开始被用来指这种快速烘烤的面包。来看单字 regularly。它是副词，表示经常、规律地。那么 Matt 老师在讲解这个单字时提到 at regular intervals， 表示定期。那我们拼一下这个 interval 是 interval， 它是当名词来表达间隔。好，再来 prevent 是动词，它有预防、阻止的意思。prevent 受词 from 加上动词 ing 就可以表达阻止某人做某事啊，防止某事怎么样怎么样。那课文接着写到说，吃长棍面包有自己的一套习俗哦，像是把长棍面包上下颠倒放在桌上，被认为是不吉利的。还有呢，在用餐的时候，长棍面包通常是用手掰开，而不是用刀切的。那无论你如何享用它，你就要记得，你不只是在吃面包，而是在吃一种法国的象征。好，我们来看单字 slice。它是个动词，可以表达将什么切成薄片，那也可以当名词来指片一片的片或是薄片的意思。老师们刚刚聊到说各自喜爱的面包 ，Matt 老师说他喜欢 sourdough bread， 是指酸种面包或是天然酵母面包。那么 Karen 老师则是喜欢 croissant， 就是可颂啊、牛角面包。好，这边2个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是 not until 的用法。Until 它可以当介系词或是连接词，那搭配否定的主要子句时，就可以表达出直到才开始怎么样的语义。好，那来看它的句型，就是主词加上 not 加动词 until 后面接名词或子句。来造2个例句哦。She didn't go to bed until midnight， 直到半夜她才上床睡觉。She didn't go to bed until her parents came home， 直到爸妈回到家她才上床睡觉。好，那下一个重点是 however 主词加动词，逗号主词加动词，这可以表达无论如何怎么样怎么样。However 在这边是指无论如何，用来引导副词子句，意思就跟 no matter how 是一样的。举例来说 ，However you cook them, sweet potatoes are delicious。 也可以说 No matter how you cook them, sweet potatoes are delicious. 地瓜不管怎么煮都很好吃，你同意吗？好，那么以上件讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Baguettes grew in popularity in France throughout the 19th century. Early baguettes were much larger than those of today. Measuring around 2 meters long, these baguettes were carried by delivery women who piled them like firewood on their backs. When served, these huge baguettes were commonly laid along the dinner table as they were too long to fit the table's width. While the bread dates back to the 1800s, the term baguette wasn't regularly used until the 1920s when a new law prevented bakers from working before 4 a.m. Following the law's introduction, bakers started making bread with a long, thin shape so that it would bake faster and be ready in time for breakfast. Baguette began to be used to refer to this fast-baking bread. Baguette eating comes with its own set of customs. For example, it's considered unlucky to place a baguette upside down on a table, and baguettes are usually broken apart by hand during meals, not sliced with a knife. However you enjoy them, just remember that you're not just eating bread, you're eating a symbol of France.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Vivian.
And today we're playing a game called Guess the Bear, where we each have 3 cards with 2 sentences each on them, but instead of saying these mystery words or phrases, we're going to say the word bear instead, and we have 1 minute each to guess. So are you ready?
Yep.
All right, why don't you guess first? Ready? Okay. Let's go. 1 minute. All right, verb, 1 word. The window bears 3 feet by 2 feet, and the distance is bared in kilometers.
Measured.
Very good. All right, next. Verb, 1 word. He bears his laundry in the corner and forgets about it. And I bear books up on the shelf until I can't fit any more.
Toss?
Not quite. He bears his laundry in the corner and forgets about it. And I bear books up on the shelf until I can't fit any more.
Piles?
Very good. All right, next. Adverb, 1 word. I bear order coffee on my way to work. And accidents occur bare at this intersection.
Often?
Similar. I bear order coffee on my way to work. And accidents occur bare at this intersection.
Frequently.
Similar.
Oh no, I already said often. Oh my gosh.
Another synonym.
Okay, read the second one again. Oh, okay.
It's regularly. So it's I regularly order coffee on my way to work. And the second sentence is accidents occur regularly at this intersection.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right.
All right. Okay, your turn. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1 minute on the clock.
Okay.
Let's go. So this one's a verb, 1 word. To bear skin cancer, wear sunscreen every day. The safety net bears people from falling down.
Is it prevent?
Yep, good job. Okay, so this one's also a verb. It's 1 word. Mom asked me to bear tomatoes for the salad. He bared the apple into 4 equal pieces.
Prepared? Wait, no. Sliced?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Mom asked me to slice tomatoes for the salad. Okay. This one's a phrase, 2 words. I'm bear moving abroad, bear next year. He will bear talk to her, bear she apologizes. This is hard.
He will not talk to her unless she apologizes?
So close, so close.
Oh, no. Can you say it again?
He will bear talk to her, bear she apologizes.
Never talk to her unless she apologizes? Until she apologizes?
Yep, okay.
Is it not until?
It's not until, so he will not talk to her until she apologizes. I'm not moving abroad until next year. So you did really good.
Not until. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
not until.
that one's hard. The other ones were pretty easy.
See you next time!